Whispers among stars. The atmospheric stabilizers hummed quietly as Aya adjusted her high-collared research uniform for the 5th time that morning. Must everything be so constricting, she whispered to herself, running her fingers along the edge where the fabric met her purple skin. As the only Novalian aboard the interspecies research vessel Harmonia, Aya was accustomed to being different. The humans and other species had their own cultural quirks, but none quite understood that on her homeworld. Covering one's body was purely functional, never decorative or born of shame, yet here she was, carefully hiding the swirling birthmark that curved from her shoulder to her collarbone. Adaptation analysis complete, announced the lab's AI assistant. Results ready for review. Aya nodded gratefully. Thank you, she said, focusing on the holographic display rather than the approaching footsteps. You must be our xenobotanist, came a warm voice from behind her. I'm Dr. Chen, heading the atmospheric composition team. She turned to face a human man with kind eyes and an easy smile. His lab coat was slightly rumpled. With soil samples tucked into various pockets, his gentle demeanor immediately put her at ease, though she instinctively adjusted her collar again. Aya of Nova Prime, she replied with a slight bow, specializing in adaptive flora physiology. Dr. Chen's eyes lit up. The paper on photosynthesis in zero-gravity environments? That was brilliant work. A flush of deeper purple colored her cheeks. You've read my research? 3 times, he admitted with a sheepish grin. Your insights on cellular adaptation might help us with the terraforming challenges on Outpost 7. For the next several hours, they lost themselves in scientific discourse. Aya found herself relaxing in his presence. Though she maintained her careful posture, Novalians typically wore minimal coverings in their humid homeworld, but the birthmark had always made her self-conscious even among her own kind. On this human vessel, with their strange taboos about bodies, she felt doubly alien. When Dr. Chen accidentally brushed against her arm while reaching for a sample, she flinched. The collar of her uniform slipped momentarily, revealing the edge of her swirling birthmark. I'm sorry, he said quickly, misinterpreting her reaction. I should have asked before invading your space. No, she replied hastily. It's not that, it's just... She trailed off. Adjusting her collar once more, Dr. Chen studied her for a moment, curiosity evident in his expression, but he didn't pry. The ecosystem simulation requires both our expertise, he said instead. Would you join me for dinner in the observatory tonight? We can review the preliminary results while watching the comet shower. Despite her reservations, Aya nodded. I would like that, she said softly, wondering if perhaps this human might see beyond her purple skin and hidden mark to the person beneath. As she returned to her quarters later, Aya gazed at her reflection, tracing the intricate pattern she kept hidden from everyone somewhere between the stars. Aboard this vessel of scientific cooperation, she wondered if she might finally find acceptance beneath foreign skies. The observatory dome curved above them like a transparent embrace. Stars glittering against the infinite darkness, Dr. Chen arranged the dinner plates on the small table he'd set up, while Aya stood transfixed by the approaching comet shower. On Nova Prime, we have nothing like this, she said quietly. Our atmosphere is too dense for such clear viewing. Then I'm honored to share your first proper comet shower, he replied, placing a curious blue fruit beside her plate. I had the galley synthesize something similar to your homeworld's cuisine. Aya's eyes widened. You researched Novalian food? I research everything that interests me, Dr. Chen said with that disarming smile that made her collar feel suddenly too tight. And very few things have interested me as much as your culture lately. They ate while discussing their research, the conversation flowing effortlessly between scientific theories and personal philosophies. As the first comets streaked across the blackness, casting ethereal light across the observatory, Aya found herself leaning closer to him, drawn by his genuine warmth. May I ask you something? Dr. Chen ventured during a momentary pause. I notice you adjust your collar frequently. Is our temperature regulation uncomfortable for Novalians? Her hand froze mid-adjustment. No, she said, her voice barely audible above the environmental systems. It's not the temperature. Dr. Chen nodded thoughtfully. You know, on Earth we have this strange history of hiding parts of ourselves we think others won't accept. He rolled up his sleeve. revealing a jagged scar running from wrist to elbow. Rock climbing accident when I was younger. I used to wear long sleeves constantly, even in summer. What changed? Aya asked, fascinated by this voluntary revelation. I met an Arcturian philosopher who told me something I'll never forget, he said, eyes reflecting the streaking comets. Our marks are cosmic calligraphy, the universe writing its story on our bodies. Aya's fingers involuntarily traced her hidden birthmark through the fabric. Your species has unusual philosophies, she murmured. The ship's communication system chimed softly. Attention all research personnel. Approaching gravitational anomaly may cause minor turbulence. Secure all equipment. The vessel shuddered slightly, and Aya lost her balance. Dr. Chen reached out instinctively to steady her, his hand gently grasping her shoulder where her collar had slipped. Her breath caught as she felt the edge of her birthmark exposed to the air. And to his gaze, instead of pulling away, Dr. Chen maintained his gentle hold, his eyes never leaving hers. Are you all right? He asked softly. Yes, she whispered. Though whether she meant physically or emotionally, she wasn't entirely sure. As the ship stabilized, they remained close, something unspoken passing between them. Dr. Chen finally stepped back, but his eyes held a new understanding. The simulations should be complete by morning, he said. Would you like to review them together? Aya nodded, her pulse racing in a way that had nothing to do with the ship's turbulence. I would appreciate that collaboration, she replied. Later, in the solitude of her quarters, Aya stood before her mirror and slowly, deliberately lowered her collar. The swirling pattern that marked her as different among even her own kind seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. For the first time in years, she didn't immediately look away in shame. Cosmic calligraphy, she whispered to her reflection, wondering what story the universe was writing on her purple skin, and whether Dr. Chen might someday read it completely. The revelation. The research lab hummed with activity as Aya and Dr. Chen examined the holographic representation of their combined work. 3 weeks had passed since the comet shower. 3 weeks of growing closeness veiled beneath professional collaboration. The adaptive properties are remarkable, Aya said, manipulating the projection to highlight cellular changes. These plants could theoretically survive the harsh conditions on Outpost 7. All thanks to your insights on metabolic hibernation, Dr. Chen replied, his shoulder brushing against hers as he reached across to adjust a parameter. Neither moved away from the contact, a small but significant change from their earlier interactions. The proximity sent a pleasant warmth through Aya's body, making her birthmark tingle beneath her high collar. The captain wants our presentation. Tomorrow, he continued, we should celebrate our success. Tonight the hydroponics bay has that flowering night blossom you mentioned from your homeworld. I thought perhaps we could have tea there. Aya felt a flutter of nervousness. You found Janari blossoms? How? I might have requested them in our last supply transfer, he admitted with that smile that always disarmed her. They're quite beautiful. According to my research, they only open in the presence of certain atmospheric components found on Nova Prime. Yet you recreated the conditions here, she said softly. His eyes met hers. I wanted you to have something of home. The hydroponics bay transformed into an enchanted garden under the ship's night cycle. The modified lighting cast everything in a gentle blue glow, making Dr. Chen's features look almost Novalian. The Janari blossoms had indeed opened, releasing their sweet fragrance into the air. This scent, Aya whispered. It reminds me of the summer festivals when I was young. Dr. Chen handed her a cup of steaming tea. Before or after you started hiding your birthmark? She nearly dropped the cup. How did you? I'm observant, he said gently. And in 3 weeks of working together, I've seen glimpses. Your reaction told me it wasn't just a casual marking. Aya set down her tea, heart pounding. On Nova Prime, uniformity is valued. Our purple skin is meant to be smooth, unmarked. Those born with distinctive patterns are considered. She hesitated. Imperfect. May I see it? He asked, his voice so tender it almost broke her. The question hung between them. Heavy with implication, Aya stood frozen, caught between lifetime habits and newfound trust. You don't have to, Dr. Chen added quickly. I just thought. No, she interrupted, I want to. With trembling fingers, Aya unfastened her collar. Slowly she pulled the fabric aside, revealing the intricate swirling pattern that flowed from her shoulder across her collarbone. The birthmark seemed to shimmer under the blue light. Its deep violet hue stark against her lighter purple skin. She kept her eyes downcast. Now you see why I hide it. For several heartbeats, Dr. Chen said nothing. Aya braced herself for the familiar reactions, polite discomfort or scientific curiosity. Instead, she felt warm fingers gently trace the edge of her birthmark. It's like a nebula, he whispered, like the Carina formation we passed last week. She dared to look up, finding his eyes filled not with revulsion but with wonder. On my world, this would make me an outsider, she said, voice barely audible, and on mine, he replied, it would make you extraordinary. The Janari blossoms seemed to pulse brighter as Dr. Chen slowly leaned forward. His intent clear Aya closed her eyes, her breath catching as his lips gently pressed against her birthmark. Beautiful, he murmured against her skin. Every swirl and pattern, something broke loose inside her, years of shame and hiding crumbling away as his lips traced the path of her birthmark. His touch was reverent, healing, transforming what had been her greatest insecurity into something precious when their lips finally met. Aya felt as though she was experiencing her first comet shower again. Brilliant, unexpected, and absolutely magnificent. In all my research across the galaxy, Dr. Chen whispered against her mouth, I've never discovered anything as remarkable as you. For the first time in her adult life, Aya didn't reach to cover her birthmark. Instead, she pulled him closer, letting the Janari blossoms witness her emergence from a lifetime of shadows. Cultural Bridge's morning arrived with the soft chime of the ship's cycle change, finding Aya and Dr. Chen seated close together in the research lab, fingers intertwined beneath the holographic display. His thumb traced small circles on her now exposed birthmark, each touch sending pleasant ripples across her purple skin. The captain approved our proposal, Aya said, reading the message on her datapad. We'll be redirected to Outpost 7 to implement the adaptive flora protocols personally. 3 weeks together on a frontier world, Dr. Chen replied, his eyes crinkling at the corners. Far more privacy than this research vessel allows. Aya felt her skin darken with a blush. There are things we should discuss before then about my people. Our customs are different from humans. Dr. Chen straightened, giving her his full attention. I'm listening. Novalians don't typically wear coverings except for environmental protection. She explained, what you call intimacy is approached differently. My hiding this, she touched her birthmark, was never about modesty as humans understand it, but about shame, something I'm still learning to overcome. And how do Novalians approach relationships? He asked. Through mental and emotional connection first, physical expression follows naturally. Without the taboos humans seem to have, she hesitated. Though I find your human approach intriguingly complex. Dr. Chen considered this. So last night, when I kissed your birthmark, in Novalian terms, you essentially declared profound acceptance and intent, she said, a smile playing at her lips. Quite forward of you. He laughed softly, and I thought I was being restrained. Their conversation was interrupted as Cooper from engineering entered. The atmospheric calibration you requested is complete, he announced, then paused, noticing their closeness and Aya's exposed birthmark. Sorry for interrupting, he added with a knowing smile. After Cooper left, Aya didn't move to cover herself. Dr. Chen noticed immediately. You didn't adjust your collar. Perhaps I'm adapting to new conditions, she replied. Isn't that what our research is about? That evening, they sat in Dr. Chen's quarters. Sharing their different cultural understandings, Aya explained Novalian bonding rituals, while Dr. Chen described Earth's varied approaches to love and commitment. In some human cultures, they exchange rings, he explained. In others, matching tattoos or ceremonial scarring. Creating deliberate marks to match natural ones like mine, Aya asked, fascinated. How strange and wonderful. Humans have always been contradictory. We hide what's natural and display what's artificial. His hand found hers. I prefer your people's directness. Aya moved closer. Would you like a demonstration? His breath caught very much. She placed her palm against his chest. Novalians begin with heartbeats, she whispered, synchronizing our rhythms. Dr. Chen placed his hand over her heart in response as they sat feeling each other's heartbeats. Aya began humming a low melodic tone. He recognized it as the frequency of the ship's engines. Vibrating through them both. Resonance, she explained between notes. Finding the frequency that connects us to our surroundings and each other. Following her example, Dr. Chen began humming in harmony, their voices blended, creating a resonance that seemed to make the air between them shimmer. Now, Aya said softly, we share breath. Their lips met, gentle at first, then with growing intensity. The cultural differences melted away as ancient instincts took over. His fingers traced her birthmark with reverence while hers explored the unfamiliar textures of his skin. Is this how? No Valians, he began between kisses. No, she interrupted. With a smile, this part seems universal. Later, as they lay entwined, Aya traced the outline of his ear, marveling at its strange shape. Tomorrow we present our research to the entire crew. She said, I'm going without my high collar. Dr. Chen propped himself up on one elbow. Are you certain? My birthmark is part of who I am, she replied. Just as your scars are part of you, neither requires hiding anymore. He kissed her birthmark again, his touch confirming what words couldn't fully express. Between your world and mine, he murmured, we'll build something new. Aya smiled in the dimness. Like our adaptive plants, a hybrid, stronger than either original. Outside the viewport, stars streaked by as the Harmonia continued its journey. The universe that had written its story on Aya's skin was now witnessing her write her own. Constellation of Hearts. The biodomes of Outpost 7 gleamed under the dual suns, their transparent surfaces refracting light in prismatic patterns across the rocky landscape. Within the largest structure, Aya knelt beside a row of newly transplanted adaptive flora, her purple skin glowing in the filtered sunlight. Her birthmark remained proudly displayed, no longer hidden beneath high collars. The cellular restructuring is proceeding faster than projected, she noted as Dr. Chen approached. These specimens have already begun adapting to the local radiation levels. Just like someone else I know, he replied with a warm smile. You've adapted beautifully to being seen. 6 months had passed since they'd arrived at the outpost. What had begun as a scientific mission had blossomed into something far more significant. They had created not just a sustainable ecosystem, but a home, a place where differences were celebrated rather than concealed. Commander Rena has requested our presence, Dr. Chen said, helping Aya to her feet. Something about the next phase of expansion. As they walked through the interconnected biodomes, fellow researchers and engineers greeted them with easy familiarity. The story of the Novalian who had uncovered her birthmark had spread throughout the outpost, inspiring others to reveal their own hidden differences. Sarah from astrocartography had stopped covering her. Vitiligo Alex from structural engineering now openly used his prosthetic arm without the synthetic skin covering. You started quite the movement, Dr. Chen whispered as they passed a group of researchers from diverse species, all displaying their unique characteristics proudly. We started it together, Aya corrected him. Commander Rena was waiting in the central hub, surrounded by holographic projections of the outpost's expansion plans. Our success here has attracted attention, she announced. The Interstellar Coalition wants to implement your adaptive ecosystem approach on 3 more outposts. That would require dividing our team, Aya said thoughtfully, or expanding it. Rena countered. I've received applications from 6 Novalian scientists wanting to join your project. Several of them specifically mentioned your influence. Aya. Dr. Chen squeezed her hand gently as emotion washed over her face. My people are traditionally hesitant to leave Nova Prime, Aya explained, especially those with visible differences. Yet here you are, Rena said with a knowing smile. Sometimes we just need to see someone like us succeeding. Later that evening, Aya and Dr. Chen sat on the observation deck of their private quarters. The landscape of Outpost 7 stretched before them, once barren now flourishing with patches of adaptive vegetation. I received a message from my family today, Aya said softly. They're coming to visit next month. My mother wants to see what her revolutionary daughter has accomplished. Revolutionary? Dr. Chen raised an eyebrow. Apparently revealing my birthmark publicly and partnering with a human has caused quite the stir on Nova Prime. She laughed. Several prominent scientists with birthmarks have begun a movement questioning our traditional values of uniformity. Dr. Chen wrapped his arm around her shoulders, his fingers naturally finding their way to the swirls of her birthmark. From hiding to leading a cultural shift, that's quite a journey. Our journey, she corrected, turning to face him. Which brings me to a question I've been researching. She took a deep breath. On your world, when two people wish to formalize their bond permanently, they have a ceremony. His eyes widened. Are you proposing to me? I believe I am, she replied, suddenly uncertain. Unless I've misunderstood the concept. Dr. Chen's laughter was joyous. Not at all. It's just traditionally been the human male who proposes. Another custom worth challenging, Aya said with a smile. On Nova Prime, we have a ritual where partners create mirror images of each other's natural markings using temporary paint. When the designs wash away, the bond remains stronger for having walked in each other's skin. From a small pouch, she produced 2 vials of shimmering liquid. This would allow you to wear my birthmark for 1 cycle, and this, she held up the second vial, would let me wear the pattern of your scars. Dr. Chen took the vials with reverent hands. Yes, he said simply, to your proposal and to this ritual and to whatever other customs we want to create between us. Under the stars of a world that neither could claim as their original home, they began carefully painting each other's skin. Aya traced the pattern of his climbing scar onto her arm while he recreated her cosmic birthmark on his shoulder and collarbone. The universe wrote its story on our bodies, she whispered. Now we write our story on each other. A new constellation, he agreed, mapped across 2 different skies. As the dual moons rose over Outpost 7, their silvery light illuminated 2 figures, different species yet perfectly aligned, creating something unprecedented and beautiful. Something that, like their adaptive plants, took the best of different worlds and fashioned it into something stronger, more resilient, and infinitely more wonderful than either could have been alone. And Aya, her birthmark now a badge of honor rather than shame, realized that what she had once hidden had become the very thing that had led her to this moment, to this love that transcended worlds, customs, and even the marks that made them who they were. Our cosmic calligraphy, she murmured against his lips. Just the first chapter, he promised as their shadows merged into one beneath the alien stars.